What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia stock, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, April 25th. Okay, guys, Nvidia stock today now down $27.46 a share. That's minus 3.33% in regular trading hours. Listen, it is down about another 10.5 points or so here in the after hours. Something I want to show you guys, as I do most days. Make sure that you're taking that after hours with a grain of salt, whether you're short or positioned long. To me, I don't think it matters. It has to be taken with a grain of salt unless there's something like an earnings event that drives volume in the after hours. There's almost none here. All right, but let's get into this here today and pull out all the bias that the market was willing to give us, starting with our quick little volume profile analysis here on the 5-minute. Listen, by the way, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. My goal here is 7,000. Trying to hit that as soon as we possibly can. I think we can do that soon. But I need your help to do it, of course. So, appreciate it. The moves here that I'm primarily interested in. Honestly, I really want to take a look at this little bounce and fade that we got. A hard fade off that 50 EMA here on the 5-minute. But I think what we're really going to do is just look at the entirety of the day as a whole, because there's not any really one move that extraordinarily stands out, right? So if we take a look, you can see a pretty contextual open. We got a fade. We got these two kind of cancel out, in my opinion. Now, through this move, kind of that sustained down move, we got some popping on red bars, but they're not, there's gaps, right? We're not seeing consecutive like 4, 5, 6 or more red bars. We're seeing a couple and then a fade, and then a couple and then a fade, then one, then a fade, right? So to me, that doesn't signal strong bearish bias. It signals a small amount of bearish bias to support this downside move. Remember, we're looking at the move itself, and the volume profile is kind of two separate entities to see if they disagree with each other or if the volume supports the actual move. Okay, so a small amount of bearish bias through that move. Then as we move into the end of the day, honestly, guys, there's really not much left in terms of bias. We got this pump into the close. Again, this is the first 5-minute bar, this one here, after the close. And that's really normal, especially on a stock like Nvidia. It's rebalancing being done by funds and institutions, and usually it leads to almost no movement in stock price because it's such a mix of buying and selling, typically just trying to rebalance the portfolio for the day, make it look good for the clients. And by the way, most of that's going to be done using algorithms. Okay, so that's really it here on the 5-minute today. Let's move on. I want to look at the self-fulfilling prophecy psychological levels. We'll start here on the 30-minute chart. Again, a very heavily watched time frame. Just simple, 50 period, 200 period. If we take a look here, yesterday, guys, we did see a nice reclaim of this 50 period, okay? Well, more so yesterday, I should say continuation, because we saw that reclaim just into the close on Monday. Yesterday, we got the reclaim and then continuation, which is very important. And we headed up for a test of that 200 period. We reclaimed that in the after hours here last night. However, this morning off the open, we quickly gave that up on pretty average volume, honestly. So to me, that's not anything meaningful. It's just average opening volume. We broke back down through the 200 period, which, by the way, we would have talked about this last night. But you see here that the reclaim occurred in after hours. And I always say, take after hours with a grain of salt. It's on such low volume, right? So those moves and reclaims, they're always a little concerning to me. I always want to see a retest intraday and a hold. We got the retest and it did not hold here this morning. And we did spend about an hour here kind of trying to reclaim that, wicking up, wicking back down before eventually rejecting, breaking downside through the 50 period, which was not all that large of a move from the 200 today. And we ended up, falling beneath that back yet again today. So that occurred on actually relatively decent volume. If you go back and compare to the last couple of days, the volume at this time of day, at least in Central Time, kind of straddling that 10 a.m. time frame, was a little perhaps above average. Not by a lot, but slightly above average on that break, which you guys know how I feel about that. With more volume, to me, I think in kind of a linear manner, if not slightly exponential, the more volume that supports a particular move in stock price, to me, the more decisive the market was at that period of time on making that move. In this case, the break downside through the 50 period. So we now find ourselves here on Nvidia on the 30-minute, at least using the after hours price. We'll use that for now. Again, take that with a grain of salt. We're about 4% away from that 50 period. I do expect this 50 period will curl downside here tomorrow, assuming the stock price doesn't just skyrocket or something off the open. But that will make for a smaller necessary move to reclaim the 50 period, which is the ultimate goal if I'm a bull here tomorrow. Bears, really simple. I'd be happy if I'm positioned short with a flat or down day. Of course, the primary concern on the 30-minute here is to get that 50 period curling back downside, heading down for an aggressive descending region of potential support. Ideally getting below $800 a share. That would be a great thing to see if you're a bear tomorrow. Bulls, high volume reclaim of the 50 period is the best case scenario here. Now let's move on into the 4-hour chart and take a look. You can see, if we zoom in, we're still a little ways away from anything that's relevant on the 4-hour. It's about 7.6% away. So understand, I'm paying attention because things can change very quickly. I mean, just this morning, guys, we were very much within range of a test of the 50 period. Didn't quite make it to a test, but the ultimate goal on every chart really, to kind of get a handle on more so what I'm actually looking for in the more mid to long term, which I'm trying to piece together day by day through these analysis videos, is what I really want to see if I'm a bull is, again, on every time frame. I want to see the 50 period would end up being above the 200 period, both in ascending patterns, with the stock bouncing off the higher moving average, which in that case would be the 50 period. If you're a bear, you'd want to see that exact same scenario, just mirrored to the downside. So piece by piece, the first step to achieve that really here on the 4-hour specifically is a reclaim of that 50 period. So I'm watching it. If it comes back into play, which again, things can change quickly, but I'm not expecting this 50 period to do a whole lot of movement. The 4 hours are a little bit of a slower chart, of course, at least compared to the 30-minute. But the stock price, just this morning, we were well within range for a quick little test of that. Just didn't get that here today. All right, now the most important chart of all, that's going to be the daily, of course. If we take a look here, guys, right now it's kind of the battle of that 50-day moving average. Okay, that white line, that's really important. Everybody's watching that. The daily is by far going to have the most eyeballs, okay, from the most amount of money. We have funds, institutions, retail. Everyone's watching the daily. It doesn't matter if you're an intraday trader or just a long-term value investor. If you're looking at Nvidia, you're paying attention to the daily. Now, this is similar to the 4-hour. We were within reason, within range of an easy test of the 50 period. We just rejected here today. So the 50 period and 850, you can see, are starting to kind of line up. That's my near-term goal from a bullish perspective. Okay, my near-term goal from a bearish perspective is a crack downside beneath 750 and a hold. Right, but listen, tomorrow we're kind of back to the battle of $800 a share. This was the case when we covered Nvidia a couple of days ago. 800 is the psychological level that we're going to need to see a definitive move made, or ideally a hold, a bullish or bearish hold, depending on your specific positioning, to really use that as kind of a push, either a trampoline-like effect or a ceiling, right? To make a push toward the mirror image levels of 850 and 750 from 8, that is. Now, bulls, understand that it's not exactly mirror image because the bulls have it, I would say, slightly more difficult. However, upon reclaiming, it's a bigger deal. And the reason I say that is because 850 also has the 50-day moving average, whereas 750 has nothing else to really be concerned with. But upon a hold, a break and hold above the 50 and 850, the 50-day moving average that is, and $850 a share, you reclaim two levels, okay, which to me, in my experience, when you have two levels lining up like that, it tends to add about 50% of strength rather than doubling strength. That's my experience, at least. But reclaiming that, you turn that level in your favor into a potential support region, okay, and then the bulls can look to utilize that to make a push up toward 9, which is that next checkpoint after a reclaim of that. Now, implied volatility, your quick little update here today. It's still sitting. Actually, let's zoom out just a little bit, and then we'll zoom out and compare this to the last 2 or 3 months here. You can see that we're still sitting in about the mid-range, Okay, again, if you're looking to buy options, ideally you'd probably want that coming lower. If you currently own options and you're looking to sell them for as much as you possibly can, of course you want to be directionally correct, but you also would preferably want to see IV pump as high as possible. Okay, now let's take a look at the expected move. All right, the next expiration we have here is Friday at the close. The expected move compared to today's close by Friday's close is plus or minus $31.09 per share. All right, we have 2 trading days left this week with no earnings, of course, on either day. So we can reasonably divide that by 2. That gives us $15.55 of expected movement per share by tomorrow's close. But again, we have to add 50% back to that to make up for the assumption that that's a green streak or a red streak into the end of the week. And we get something like an expected move of about $23.32 plus or minus by tomorrow's close compared to today's close, okay? That's not compared to the current after hours price. That's compared to today's closing price. And, you know, for those of you who are a little bit newer here and maybe don't understand what expected move means, it's a technical term. It's literally being priced in by the options traders, being pulled from the implied volatility of every single expiration. That's the volatility expectation. Okay, we couple that with directional bias that we're able to pull out of doing the analysis, and all of a sudden we have a really powerful perspective. Okay, but there's one more thing we can do. The directional bias from the options traders today. Okay, we have 1.43 million contracts traded. 756,000 of those were calls. 678,000 were puts. So we're seeing it's not overwhelming at all, but we're seeing a bit of a call side bias. And then if we break that down by time frame, the short-term speculators at 0 to 20 delta range, 289,000 calls, 237,000 puts. Now listen, if you guys like the options data that I cover every day, I've been tracking unusual options activity myself out of personal interest for years. And in the last 3 years, I introduced that as a service to our members. So if you take a look at the link in the pinned comment, if you go ahead and join Gold Plus with UOA, that stands for unusual options activity, those alerts get sent out whenever I see an unusual options order come through. That's how I keep track of what the whales are doing. So listen, if you got value out of this video, please leave a like on the way out. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.